get the walking boots on, and get off to the North Wiltshire Way. I've made the boo-boo I've been telling other people off for all week. The North Wessex Way, which is in North Wiltshire, but it picks up on the old Wessex vibe. And it's a splendid road, full of history. It's a road that was built, we reckon, or at least David Mitchell from Mind, who's done all the research on this, reckons, transported people from Oxford to Bristol and back again, clerics, religious leaders, royalty, peasants, wayfarers, horse, carts, carriages, the lot. It was teeming with life for years and years and years. Vast route across the North Wiltshire. But then it just got forgotten about for various reasons, and he's now celebrating its history and wants a higher profile for it. And we've been learning all sorts. We went out originally this time last year, and learnt about it in the first instance. And this time round, we've learnt extra layers, like how the church in Purton, David thinks, through his research, was inspired by what had been built just along the North Wessex Way in Malmesbury with the Abbey. Then we heard how Purton had not one but two bypasses, which seems strange now, given that it's not sleepy, but it's not a metropolis, is it? And then we discovered all about the Romans building a whole lot of kilns in and around Mighty. Well, for our final stop this week, we're back in Purton itself, which was so important, it seems, along this forgotten route.
Purton House, which is just around the corner, is apparently where the monks lived. Just down the bottom of the corner here, there's another house right on the corner, the thatched house, which is where they would make their beer. Just along the end of the road here, there's a pond where they kept fish.
They needed to live, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So the fish for the Fridays, obviously.
Yeah.
So it was. This would have been a very religious and sort of monkish area.
Yeah. Now, meetings, talks. The first one you gave last year was a huge success. You given how many? 7 or 8 since?
7 or 8 since. So I'm doing another talk, a North Wessex Way lecture, and it's going to be on the 24th and 25th of January.
Oh, not long to wait.
Not long to wait in Mighty Village Hall. So there'll be one at 7:30 on the Friday evening and one at 2 p.m. on the Saturday afternoon in Mighty Village Hall.
What's the mix been like? People who turn up to all the other meetings. You've done WIs and
I've done
history groups.
WIs, historical societies. I did the talk at Wessex Week in Malmesbury. So it's a real mix of different audiences, but people find it fascinating.
What's the bit people love most, do you think?
I think it's just discovering something that has been forgotten. The fact that they've lived around here all their lives, they've driven these roads, and had no idea that this was there. As you were saying earlier in the week, I've had people phone me up saying we went out the day after the talk and we drove along the road and explored it for ourselves.
The wind's whipping up now, so again, I always find when the weather gets a bit grotesque, you think back, don't you? It was a tough life, wasn't it?
I think it was a very tough life for people in those days. It was. We're talking about going right back to the Iron Age here with this road. So yeah, you had a very short life expectancy. It was a tough life. You had periods of starvation and famine. There have been along this route 2 civil wars. One of the anarchy around Henry I and Henry II's period. Then there was obviously the English Civil War, and the English Civil War battles were fought all up and down this route because it was the road that King Charles in Oxford used to try and get to the port in Bristol. That's why Malmesbury changed hands 6 times during the Civil War.
It was a real flip-flopping place, wasn't it?
And so if you were living around, Malmesbury, Purton, Blunsdon, Highworth in those days, you would have had armies fighting backwards and forwards. You would never have known which side to be on because, suddenly somebody else would turn up and claim they want you to be their followers. So it would have been a really tough time.
I wonder who the David of 1,000 years' time will be, looking at what we've got here today. And is there anything going on, do you think, in the recent history or the next few hundred years that will stack up?
Well, I think on this particular route, no, because I think what's happened, because first of all, it's been forgotten. And so if it hadn't been forgotten, if the road hadn't been diverted via Cricklade, then through the middle of the Braden Forest, through Garsden and Milbourne, you'd had a main road today. Because all the turnpike roads that were originally built have been turned into A roads and B roads. So we have a little bit of history that's been forgotten and sort of maintained and preserved there. I think the other thing that happened was Swindon. So Swindon's come along, it's become a centre of railways, it grew vastly. So this little part of the countryside has been completely forgotten. I think that the area that I always find fascinating is you come down from Blunsdon on the North Wessex Way and towards Purton. You go past what is now Tadpole Garden Village housing estate. I used to drive along that as a child and remember it just being open fields either side as far as you can see. Now it's Swindon. And again, I've talked to people who live there who had no idea that the road right through the middle of their estate is one of the oldest roads in the country.
My thanks to David.